fight alone will make us rich beyond our wildest dreams.
Hell yeah, it is happening. This is the Disenfranchised Podcast, the podcast from hell, boy. And we are, if you forgot, that podcast all about those franchises of one, those films that fancy themselves full-fledged franchises before falling flat on their face after the first film. I am your host, Stephen Foxworthy, and joining me, as always, he may be a Capricorn and fucking crazy. It's Tucker. Hey, Tucker.
Hi, Stephen. How's it going?
Not bad. How are you?
I'm doing okay. It's the daytime, so I don't know if anyone's noticed these last 3 or 4 episodes. We've basically been there was one we recorded really late, and we be recording these during the day, so it's a little bit of a different Tukey. Like, you have different Tukeys, and the thing is, we're never doing it at the normal time. Recently, we're either doing it early when I'm completely sober, or real late when I've already had too much. But see, when we do it right at 8, 9 o'clock, that's when I'm getting there. So it's perfect timing.
It is. You're kind of cresting the hill.
Yes.
Whereas
when we did that 11 o'clock one, what is that?
I don't know. What is that? Cat, is that you?
I don't know.
It sounds like something's like dragging around.
I don't
belt
hear anything
sander,
here.
possibly.
I don't hear anything. Let's try.
Okay.
Oh my.
Oh, okay. I mean, it's gone.
Well, she
Whatever
also
it
muted
was.
herself just now.
I muted it for a second to try and see if it would help reset any sound issues, but let me know if it continues. Do you hear anything still?
No,
Not right now. No.
Yeah,
What was
because I
I
can
saying?
always mute it until I talk or something if
Okay.
it comes back.
Yeah, it felt like something like someone was dragging like a heavy metal piece of machinery across a concrete floor or something.
I mean, it might have happened here. I am in a building that's full of artists. There's 3 floors of studios where I'm at right now.
Okay.
And so there's a lot of other artists. Some of them make really big pieces. Some of them do murals and sculptures. So sometimes there are odd sounds in my background because I'm in a working studio with other working artists and it's a Saturday. So a lot of them come in on Saturday. So there may be doors closing and stuff like that. But yeah, I'm in an old mill that got turned into art studios.
Oh, that's awesome.
The old mill.
The old
you know where it is.
mill.
Maine. Never.
Yeah.
You haven't seen State and Maine. Get out of here, you guys. So yeah, I am sober, but I did put what I like to call on Tuck mugs an undisclosed amount of Irish cream in my coffee.
Ooh.
And undisclosed means this much.
Okay.
Oh, okay.
I may or may
You
not
guys
have put an undisclosed amount of dark rum in my Diet Coke before I sat down to record. So
How would you know they're both so dark? How would you know?
So dark. It just
How
blends
could
right
you
in.
possibly know?
Just
You can't.
blends. Yeah.
You can't.
You can't be expected to know.
No. Nor should you. Because it's undisclosed, and it's undisclosed for a reason.
Yeah.
Because we
And
don't
things
want
that
to
happen for a
disclosing it.
reason happen for a reason.
That's what I heard.
Unfortunately, I do need to mention that after his 4-week blood oath was ended, Brett has returned to the depths from whence he came, aka work. And so he will not be joining us on this episode. Maybe one day we'll spill a vial of something sacred, and he will make his return. But until then, we are joined by a returning guest, someone that we have been anxious to have on ever since her last visit. The schedules haven't worked out, but the stars have aligned in the sky. It's the perfect time. Some may say it's the apocalypse. I say it's the dawn of a new beginning, because joining us today, the author of Jennifer Strange, the illustrator of The Mayor of Halloween is Missing. It is Halloween, not Halloween Town, right? Yes, Mayor of Halloween is Missing. I got it right. And author of the upcoming Below the Grand Hotel, much teased, finally named. Oh my word, she's got a copy. Love it, love it. Please welcome back to the program, for the first time in far too long, Cat Scully. Cat, welcome back.
Thank you so much. I've been dying to come back. It is great to be here, especially talking about Hellboy. If anyone has known me for a long time, they know how much I love Hellboy. So this is just a great property to come back and talk with you all with, and I'm glad all of it aligned so we could do this together today.
Absolutely. You mentioned, I think, after the last time you were on that you wanted to do Hellboy, and there's a new Hellboy movie coming out. It's releasing in the UK right now this week. I don't know when it's releasing in the United States. Probably never, because that's
Wait,
how
that's
these
not a
things
fan
work.
film? I thought that was a fan
No,
film.
that's a
No.
legitimate film, sir.
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay. Cool. Yeah, that's cool, you guys. That's
It's
real
got your
cool.
boy from The Fresh Prince, the butler from The Fresh Prince is in it.
Jeffrey.
Jeffrey.
No, his name's not his. Well,
Jeffrey.
you know.
Right, it's not his actual given name, his Christian
No.
name. That's his character name. So we are talking, as you requested, Kat, about the 2019 Neil Marshall film Hellboy, starring David Harbour, Mila Jovovich, the great Mila Jovovich. Speaking of the great Ian McShane, Sasha Lane, Daniel Day Kim, Stephen Graham, Sophie Okonedo, Alistair Petrie, Brian Gleason, and many others. Dare I say it? What a cast! What a picture! And and Thomas Hayden Church. I forgot Thomas Hayden Church. How dare I?
Yeah, I like he popped in at the beginning, and then I forgot he was in it, and then he popped in at the end, and I was like, "That's nice."
Oh, well, here he is again.
I liked his character. He was delightfully silly.
Who do you think would win in a fight between Lobster Johnson and Captain America?
Oh.
I mean,
That was just a random thought that popped into my head while I was watching this movie today.
gosh, I don't know. I think I'm not really too clear on what the lobster guy's powers are, except the little glowy thing when he burns you with it.
Well, I mean, he's also, let me just check my notes here, a certified badass. So
Yeah.
That's very
I mean,
ambiguous. In what way is he a badass?
Like, let's just say Bruce Campbell at one point played him and was going to play him in the Hellboy 3 Guillermo del Toro was going to do. So I automatically go, okay, Bruce Campbell's going to win. But I'm a huge
Yes.
Evil Dead fan. So
right.
I'm like, I love Captain America and all that, but Lobster Johnson would figure it out. Like, he would figure out a way around it, I think. So my vote's for him.
All right. Right. I don't know that I have a vote, but yeah.
I think that they would become friends instead. It would be like in most comic books when two heroes meet, of course, they have to fight first. And then after a big old fight, they're like, wait, what are we doing? We're on the same team.
Wait, I thought you were a Nazi. I thought you were a Nazi. Let's go fight all these Nazis.
Why did you say that name?
Yeah, like in my head, like Lobster Johnson beats Captain America, and it's that respect now. Now they're buddies. Yeah.
And then they fight the undead hordes of Nazis. There you go.
Exactly.
Kat, I want you to pitch this as a Dark Horse Marvel crossover that you will write and illustrate, please and thank you.
1000%. I'm gonna make a note right now to tell my agent Jolene. Can I please write? I just told her I want to write IP, so this is definitely going on the list.
Fuck yes. Oh, no one is more excited than me. So, Kat, you were showing us your bona fides before we started recording. You've got like just a plethora of Hellboy merch. What is your history with the character? What is your history with this particular film? Why did you want to come on and talk about this movie with us today? Give us the goss.
Okay, so my origin story with Hellboy is that around like when this movie came out, I was a very impressionable, spooky goth teenager in northern Atlanta, and my parents would not let me watch the Hellboy movie, and I saw it and I immediately went, that's the film for me. But I was also at that time obsessed with Van Helsing, so I just went, I need another thing that's like that. And I saw Hellboy, and I convinced my boyfriend at the time, my high school boyfriend, to go rent the two movies I really wanted to see, which were Hellboy and Dog Soldiers, and watch them at his house so I could see both of these films, because I was also obsessed with werewolves. And that movie, like that, the back-to-back of those changed my life. They're the reason I became a horror writer. I saw them and went, I want to write like this. This is what I want to do. I want to tell stories like this. I don't know how. And I was like 17 at the time, like, I don't know how I'm going to do it, but I want to be like an illustrator that does stuff like this. I found out about Mike Mignola from this movie. My parents were like, comics are for boys, kind of like, why would you read comics? I had that kind of upbringing. And so I didn't get exposed to Hellboy through the comics. I got sneaking movies at my boyfriend's house. Like, that's how I would be exposed to nerddom, and films were more accessible. because I didn't have to hide them under the bed like my Queen of the Damned CD. My mom also so it was easier to rent a film and return it. And when I saw them, I went, "Oh my God, this is for me. This is the kind of stuff I want to write, where it's kind of fantasy, it's kind of horror, it's noir, it's detective." I was a big fan of Who Framed Roger Rabbit growing up. It was my favorite film to watch with my dad. So I was already a big noir fan, especially if it's absurd or comic in some way, or dark, gothic kind of themes. And so when I heard that there was a Hellboy movie coming out directed by Neil Marshall that my friend Chris Golden was involved with, I was like, this is going to be like the best Hellboy ever. And I was already a huge fan of like Hellboy in general. And part of what connected me with Hellboy so much was also the Guillermo del Toro versions. So Guillermo is one of those creators that I first latched onto because I'm a writer and an illustrator. And his process with his journals, where he had all these drawings and like writing around them, was my process too. And so I was showing my props earlier, I've collected like all of Guillermo del Toro's books, like about his Cabinet of Curiosities, which is his writing process on like all of his first films, Pan's Labyrinth, on Hellboy, and it goes through his whole process. I even got this, this was rare, but the Hellboy 2 art of the movie, I have this. I have a bunch of the Hellboy comics on my shelf here, and I even got the Hellboy 2019 art of the movie because I've worked in video games. I've done a lot of concept art for monsters and things like that, and the art style that they went for was very video game. It was very, like, for all the hell creatures at the end. So I was curious, like, what was their process and how'd they do that? And I even have, when the movie came out, I was so hyped. I got a little Nimue. And I got that for my desk, and I got a little Hellboy. And they sit in my art studio with all of my Evil Dead and Doctor Strange figures. So Hellboy, as you've probably guessed by now, means a lot to me.
Yeah, absolutely. I, like you, was introduced to Hellboy through the Guillermo del Toro films. I saw the first one. I saw the first one in theaters. I didn't get to see the second one until just a few years ago, actually. I kind of slept on that one and was kicking myself for having done so, because I think the second one is amazing, like a damn near perfect film. But I slept on this one until earlier today when we're getting ready to record this episode. And this one made me wish I had more of a background with the comics. Like, watching this movie, I was like, I really need to read these comics. Like, I really need to know like the stories behind this movie. I want to dig into those. I want to know who these characters are, kind of in their fully fleshed, fully formed personae. So that was kind of my big takeaway here. I've not been into the comics, which is, as a comic book guy, is weird for me. I had a couple friends in college that were into Hellboy comics and got a lot of those. So I was vaguely familiar with some of that from them. I was flabbergasted by the fact that Lobster Johnson was not a giant lobster man, because that seemed very much like something that would fit in that world.
Yeah.
But no, I wanted, like, that's kind of the thing that this has particularly sprung out of, is I really, really, really want to get into those comics. Tucker, what about you? What's your history with the Hellboys?
In the mid to late 90s, when Hellboy was enjoying his premiere, his very celebrated premiere in the comic books, I did read some of that. I had some friends who were into it. I had one friend who especially was a big fan of the art style and would imitate that art style and draw Hellboy quite a bit. So I read a few of the comics. I didn't read a lot of them because honestly, I couldn't get into them. And I think it was it's my fault. And it's the fact that as a character, I've never really enjoyed Hellboy that much. And I think it's because I want either too much or something different from it. Because all the things you put into the stew to make Hellboy are all things that I'm way into. But for some reason, the stew that comes out of it is not something that I've ever enjoyed. Now, this movie did win me over by the end. But the first two films, while I can look at them objectively and say these are fantastic films, these are well made, they're well written, I just cannot get into them. I could never get into the comic, and this movie was really, really hard for me to get into. But I actually want to watch it again because, like I said, I was not having a good time until about the third act. And then as the third act was happening, I was like, oh, it's this kind of movie. Okay, okay. And so I kind of want to go back and watch it again because I think I would enjoy it more knowing, if I knew then what I know now, I would have watched it differently. Oh, kitty cat.
Yeah, he's disgruntled.
Oh, feed me. You never feed me.
It's within an hour of lunchtime, and ergo is time for him to make a noise. So
no, but to
Yes.
sum it up, I've always been the demographic, but for some reason I've always been unimpressed.
Fair enough. But you said this one did make some steps to winning you over.
It did. It won me over. Like, Ian McShane got me through the first two acts. And then in the third act, when I started appreciating what everybody else was doing, I was all the way into it, to the point to where, like I said, I think I'm gonna have to watch it again because I think I'm gonna have a really good time with it if I watch it again.
And see, I'm kind of almost exactly the opposite. The first act is where I'm like really locked in on what this is, and I'm having just just the best time. And I'm like, holy shit, is this movie gonna slap? Is this movie gonna fucking rule? And by the time I get to the end, I'm like, okay. I don't know. I feel like there's a lot going on here, and I don't know that the pieces meld as well as I want them to. They still feel like they're three separate stories that are kind of being told slightly layered on top of one another rather than one cohesive story. But we can talk about that more later.
I want this version of Hellboy. I would like a prestige series, like an HBO series of.
I was thinking that right at the end when they're doing Kickstart My Heart and as they're like fighting their way through everything, I'm like, this would make a really good TV show. If this were like 2 to 3 episodes of a TV show, I'd have been locked in entirely.
Because this Hellboy is the kind of Hellboy you could have on a 13 to 22 episode season of 45-minute episodes, 90% of them just being Monster of the Week episodes, while slowly pulling the season plot along in each episode. That's the kind of series this needs to be. Give me some Monster of the Week with this specific Hellboy.
Yeah. This would be a good like HBO Max like series. Either a limited series or an ongoing series. I'm absolutely with you on that. Man, there's a lot to talk about with this movie. I do want to get into the development of it a little bit because this movie started as the third Guillermo del Toro Hellboy movie. After the success of Deadpool, when people realized, oh, you can make an R-rated superhero movie and people will see it. Del Toro reached out to Mike Mignola and reached out to Ron Perlman, and they had a sit down and we're kind of like, hey, let's brainstorm a third movie. Let's kind of do what, let's keep it going. But at that point, I think Mignola had already been contacted by the studio who wanted to do a hard reboot. I read a lot of conflicting reports about the development of that third movie. Some were saying that it got, like, there were multiple scripts written for it and that one of those scripts was turned into this movie. Some said the development process, there was a rift between Del Toro and Mignola that kind of led to the dissolution of the thing. Some said this was already in the works, and it may be some combination of the three of those things that led to this movie. But at the end of the day, there was some kind of rift between Del Toro and Mignola, and so they decided to strip a lot of the Del Toro-y stuff out of what they had and just went ahead with a hard reboot of the franchise with David Harbour from hot off the success of Stranger Things in the lead. So that's kind of what we end up with here. And I think it's better than the critical reception and box office numbers would have you believe. But I don't know that it's hard to take it on its own merits, for me at least. And I don't know how you guys feel about this, but it's hard for me to take it on its own merits without comparing it to what came before, the Del Toro films in particular, because those meant so much to me. Kat, I know Tucker said he didn't really care for those, but you are a big fan of the Del Toro films. Like, I don't know. What are your thoughts on that?
I am an enormous fan of the first two, but I also know and respect that Guillermo did his own thing with them. They're not the Hellboy comics. I know that basically they collaborated, and then Del Toro tried to put a lot of himself into the Hellboy films. And I think
Especially the
it's
second one, I'd say.
especially the second one. And I was even reading, like, in this copy of Cabinet of Curiosities by Guillermo del Toro, he was talking about how he kind of likened Hellboy to his father, who had been through a war, and the like parts about him being kind of a lovesick teenager, or like how he saw Hellboy and his take on it, and how he related that character to himself and allowed him to express his own kind of story. And I think he put a lot of heart into it, and I think that heart came through in that character, and that and his love of monsters really came through. With the new movie, what I do know about it is that there was a lot of that creative differences between what Hellboy is, what Mike Mignola wrote, that world, his tone, and I think Guillermo del Toro dips into that, but it's a Guillermo del Toro world, and we love visiting his world. And he even writes in the Cabinet of Curiosities that he views each film as a room in his house, in his bleak house, and you're going from room to room, and so they're all connected. So you're visiting Guillermo del Toro's house if you're watching one of his films, and you get that sense of storytelling, of world, of it's a beautiful thing to watch. And the character development is very similar between his films. But is it a Hellboy story, like in the comic sense? Not really. It's one of those things, I think, that's been hard to translate to film because things have happened in production, because things have happened with writing. Being friends with Chris Golden, I've been friends with him, I think, maybe 8 to 10 years at this point, and I've talked to him a lot about Hellboy, and I've met Mike Mignola once. Mostly what I said to him was, thank you so much for writing Hellboy. But I know that there has been a mistranslation, and with this particular film, with the 2019 one, I know Neil Marshall was going through a divorce. He was going through a lot of personal fallout at the time, and that took him away from set a lot, from what I've heard. And it made it not quite the film they had originally planned. And I know Chris Golden wrote a lot of the Hellboy 2019 with David Harbour, and then it got rewritten. And I watched the film with him when it came out, and he said the one scene that had stayed in that he wrote, like where the writing was close to what he originally did for it, was the scene with Merlin in the cave with Excalibur. That was Chris Golden. Like, okay. But there was a lot that happened with this film that, to me, it felt like it's not unlike what happened with, say, Multiverse of Madness with Sam Raimi, where Sam Raimi's handed, here's some pieces of this film, put it together, and then there's like executives coming in and saying, write it this way, no, do it that way, and then new writers are brought in, and then by the end, when we see this movie, it's almost a hodgepodge of things. Some of them were good, and they were seeds of something good, but when they had to cut it all together at the end, they're just trying to piecemeal this thing that could have been great and make a final film and push it out and say, okay, here it is. And you could see bits with Baba Yaga. You could see bits with Merlin and Excalibur, bits with the Wild Hunt, bits like with the Blood Queen with Mila that were great, but they somehow don't all glue together. And you can almost see where I'm presuming there's executives coming in going, no, do this, do this, do this. And it's kind of killing the creative process. Versus with the Guillermo del Toro process, it felt like it was really his artistic vision that carried through, and it had a seamless like narrative that was clearly him the whole time, versus a hodgepodge of things put together that became a final film. So there was a whole lot about the 2019 version that could have been great. Like David Harbour put his heart into it. Mila put her heart into it. Like you could tell Ian McShane really delivered. Like everyone was giving their best, and you could tell, but it still got cut together in a way that was just like, this is all choppy. This is too much. Like this needs to be a clear narrative run through. And it was also pretty and gross to look at, which I enjoyed on the Hellboy one. I'm like, this feels like a really like horror video game, a Hellboy video game I want to play. Or the TV show, like you mentioned, that would be great. A Monster of the Week with Hellboy would be closer to the comics because he's going through issues of, I have to solve this, I have to solve that. It's a detective solving supernatural mysteries.
Well, and that's the thing about movies like this and Van Helsing, the one with Hugh Jackman, is that they introduce this world and there's so much cool stuff. You got your little detective agency, you got your gadget guy, and you got this guy and that guy and this other helper, and then you do one thing with it. And it's always like some world-ending thing. Like, give me some lower stakes in a TV series. I need to explore that world more. It's the same. I was thinking of Van Helsing the entire time I was watching this movie. I was like, this is the same kind of, like, they're setting up this whole thing that I really want to see more of, but I'm never going to get to see more of after 2 hours.
Right.
Same here.
Go ahead.
No, I was just going to say, same here. I completely agree with you. I thought of Van Helsing the whole time I watched this movie. Like, please be, like, if nothing else, be another Van Helsing. But it didn't have the humor of Van Helsing. That's part of what made it, like, so good. Like, Van Helsing's so good is it's funny. Like, inadvertently funny.
Yeah.
At one point, Hellboy says, I'm sorry, I'm going to need some more relatable stakes. And I was like, I feel that. Like, that's kind of what we're talking about is like, and I don't know, the world is so fun that you can, in a TV show, you could like have, Alice and Daimo and Abe Sapien and all these, different members of the BRPD coming in, like for an episode or two arc per season. Like you don't need the whole crew every time. And so it feels like more manageable, and Hellboy's just kind of your central figure. Because I feel like every time one of these comes out, it's like, well, we've got to have different characters in the BPRD, so we're not doing what those films did, so we're not doing what this next guy's going to do. Like we gotta do our own thing with it. And so, but we got to make it feel different from what we did before. And it's kind of a whole thing, but there's so many characters that flesh out that world that, I don't know, I think a TV show would do a lot better of kind of piecing those together. And then you could save like the big world ending stakes for like the last episode of the season or for the last couple episodes of a season, rather than just, every movie has to end with an apocalypse.
Yeah, I feel like they could have done what they did with Ash versus Evil Dead, where they had like the overall big world-ending stakes with the Deadites and everything that they do finally get to at the end of like the third season.
Right.
They could do that with Hellboy, and maybe in the future we will see a Hellboy TV show. That will be awesome. There's so many things being done in TV now that are great. Like I could see that being a good pitch, but would a studio fund it? I don't know. That's always the thing. I'm sure there are creative people that want to do this. Like would be like, hell yeah, I want to work on a Hellboy TV show. But it's about, can you get it funded?
Right. And I mean, the fact that the movies have had kind of a mixed return on investment, I'm sure doesn't help that a lot, because people are like, oh, well, these movies only performed so well. Maybe a TV show is what they need to kind of, juice up some interest, and then, do a movie after a couple seasons. Who knows?
Yeah. And I'm hoping like we have the Crooked Man coming out, which we haven't talked about yet, but I'm super excited for that because it looks like a folk horror film that happens to have Hellboy in it. And that's the way Chris Golden, who worked on the writing, who's been very hush-hush about it, has described it. He's like, we wrote it as a horror film that Hellboy is in. And I'm super stoked for that, because maybe it will like renew some interest and get people excited about, I want to see more of this world, which would, make a great TV show.
I'm excited to see it when it does come out. I am kind of bummed that there hasn't been a US release date yet. I'm kind of hoping that it actually does get released in the US at something other than like VOD or direct to streaming, because I would love to see that on a big screen. Like it looks like a true indie, which I'm actually very excited about. I like the character of Hellboy. I'm interested in like it's a period piece. That's kind of cool. Like I kind of dig that, and I'm interested in seeing that, and I want to hopefully read some comics before we get to that point.
Yeah.
That said, let's talk about the plot of this beast.
Let's do it.
This is the plot in 60 seconds, the part of the show where we recount the plot of the film we're discussing, in this case, the 2019 Hellboy film, in 60 seconds or less. Now, as my form of penance, I did not ask Kat prior to the recording if she would be willing to perform the plot in 60. She has opted out, as is her right, and we respect it. So as my penance for just like springing that on her last minute, I will take the mantle of the plot in 60 seconds upon myself, upon these broad and heavy shoulders. Tucker, you have placed 1 minute on the clock.
Yes.
And so I will start. Now there's a boy. He's from hell. But first, it was the Dark Ages, which are called that for a fucking reason. Arthur destroys Nimue, cuts her up into pieces, like turns her out all over the realm. There's a pig dude who's trying to get revenge on Hellboy, so he wants to go find her. And Baba Yaga's like, go find her, and then you can kill Hellboy. So Hellboy gets told to go to this secret like boys club in England. They're going to hunt a giant, but it turns out they're hunting him. But there's actually giants. 30 seconds. So he kills the giants and gets kidnapped by this girl named Alice. Then the BPRD show up and they find out, oh, it's actually Nimue the whole time. And so Alice is a psychic. This Daimo dude is a were-jaguar. Nimue gets sewn back together. And
10 seconds, wrap it up, B.
All the minions of hell come out. Hellboy turns into a big monster man, chops her head off, and throws it into hell, and the good guys win.
And that's time.
There's a lot going on in this movie.
You did it.
Nice job.
At some point, he promises Baba Yaga his eye, because it's piss yellow she likes.
You did the classic plot in 60 seconds trope of explaining like the first 10 minutes of the movie really well, and then
that's my favorite part of the movie, though, is the first 10 minutes. Like, I fucking loved the first 45 minutes of this movie. I'm like, in. Yes, this is fun. I'm having a good time. And the more I watch, the more I'm just kind of like, oh, this is still going on? Oh, Baba Yaga's still around?
And I don't think I've ever experienced this in the way that I have. It's exactly opposite of you. It's like when I got to the third act, I was looking back in my mind at those scenes I didn't like, and I was like, maybe I do like those now. Kind of like in a way that you guys seen Martin, George Romero's Martin. Man, first time you watch that movie sucks. No pun intended. But until the last 10 seconds, then you're like, oh, I get it now. Now this movie is good. And then you watch it again and you're like, oh yeah, that's good. That is good. Oh, I get that now. That's why that's good. And as I was watching the third act, I was retroactively thinking of other scenes in the movie that I didn't like before. And I was like, oh, now I see why that was good. Like, now I like that. Yeah. Unfortunately, Steven, that didn't happen for you, unfortunately.
No, it didn't. I literally after the cold open with Nimue and Arthur, I'm like, holy shit, that was awesome. Like, I loved that. That was great. And then the next scene is Hellboy fighting a vampire in a pro wrestling match, like an underground Mexican wrestling match. I'm like, this fucking rules. Like, is this movie? And then he's like, oh, well, we need you to go on a hunt for giants. I'm like, are you fucking kidding me? This is amazing. And then after the giant scene, I'm just like, there's like kind of a little deflation for me. And I'm like, oh, I was having a lot of fun when Hellboy was like murdering giants. That was a good time. This stuff in the kitchen, not as fun for me.
The character development. You didn't like that. Gotcha. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Making sure. Yeah. When it slows down and actually tries to say something, you're just not into it. Got it.
I guess
I'm teasing you, Steven, of course.
Yeah.
To circle back. Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
We had a similar experience. I mean, the very beginning of the movie, I had the same reactions of like, this is great, this is great, this is great. And then I got to the giant scene, I had the same dip of like, oh, I don't know what it was exactly about the giant scene, but it was just like a letdown after that. But then there were so many cool special effects that held my interest with those. Like, I loved everything with Alice and the protoplasm of like summoning spirits, and a lot of the fight scenes were fun. I loved the luchador like wrestling scene so much. I thought that was great. I'm like, oh, we're gonna see Hellboy with some monsters now, like lots of different monsters. This is great. This is like the comics, cool. But yeah, same experience as you. It just started to dip for me. But I felt like they were trying to do these ends I couldn't quite follow, like Alice and the Changeling, like how Hellboy rescued her as a baby from fairies, and then this is a disgruntled fairy that looks like a pig who's upset he didn't get to be human. Now he's come back for revenge, and I'm like, it's a Hellboy plot, but it's like they skimmed it and went, yeah, that sounds Hellboy, you know.
Right.
But then didn't go any deeper.
Yeah, the thing you were talking about earlier about how this feels like a hodgepodge, and I used this analogy when we talked about another movie where a woman gets cut into pieces and sewn back together, Beetlejuice, a couple weeks ago. It feels it feels like you can tell there were a number of writers working on this project, and it feels like everyone kind of had to leave their mark, and so it feels very uneven. Like the tone is inconsistent and it feels too busy. There's too much going on because there are too many things that too many people are too precious about and just unwilling to let those things go. And I think when that stuff happens, like this is 2 to 3 episodes, great episodes of television crammed into 1 2-hour movie. And if we'd given some of these subplots a little more time to breathe, a little more room to actually develop, I think I would have had a lot more fun. And I think maybe that's why I enjoyed the first act, is because everything is romping along and you're getting just the right beats that you need. And then it feels like we're into another movie. And that movie is, I mean, I understand the movie's got to have hills and valleys, but it's not keeping the same tone and the same momentum moving forward. It just kind of like slams to a halt a little bit and then starts to slowly crawl itself back up to that rhythm that we had, and then does the same thing again, like slams to a halt and has to crawl its way back to that rhythm. So it just just fits and starts with this thing, I thought.
Interesting take, Stephen.
I mean, that's just that is one man's opinion,
and a valid one at that.
I like to think so.
Yeah, well spoken, sir. Good job.
Oh, I have my moments, few and far between, but moments they may be.
That's me patting you on the back right now.
Oh, yay! Thank you for that.
Yeah.
But one thing I did enjoy was seeing some different characters and some different relationship interplay with those characters. Like, obviously, Hellboy is back. You can't do a Hellboy movie without Hellboy. Professor Broom is back. But then you get Ben Dymo, who's a character I was not familiar with. Alice Monaghan, a character I was not familiar with. You get some new interesting villains. Like, there was a tear there in the mid to late 2010s where we were all about Baba Yaga just as a culture. You've got the John Wick movies that call him Baba Yaga. You've got David Dasmalchian in Ant-Man and the Wasp, who is calling Ghost the Baba Yaga. And then this movie where you literally see the Baba Yaga. Which one? A Serious Man? I love A Serious Man.
Yeah, remember at the beginning, that scene that has nothing to do with the rest of the movie?
With the golem?
Yeah. No, because remember it's the two people, and the guy brings the other guy home, and she's like, no, that guy's been dead for a while. It's the Baba Yaga.
I need to watch
the beginning of A Serious Man.
I know. I thought there was a golem in there, too. Am I misremembering that? Dude. I could be misremembering that. It's been a long time since I've seen A Serious Man, so I need to rewatch it.
He says it's his favorite Coen Brothers movie, and then he doesn't even know it, this guy.
I've seen it one time, and I thought it was amazing. What do you want from me? I'm sorry I don't memorize all my favorite movies, Tucker.
No, Steven, that actually makes me feel guilty for owning it when it's your favorite Coen Brothers movie. It makes me want to give my Blu-ray to you so that you can watch it more.
I'm waiting for the 4K.
Yeah.
I guess.
I want the 4K Steelbook of A Serious Man. That's all I want.
Now look, Criterion is only now just putting out a 4K of No Country for Old Men. So good luck, Stephen. We'll see how long that takes you.
Yeah, it might be a while.
Because nobody but me and you give a fuck about that movie.
Hey, I'm a patient man. Michael Stolberg is a serious man. I'm a patient man.
There you go. Yeah, dude. Oh, he's in the series. He's in the Fargo series too.
Oh, well. I do like Michael Stolberg. That's an actor I'll show up for. Oh, I'm sure. Yeah. No, I'll show up for Stolberg. He's great. I've never seen him give a bad performance. Even his 2-minute scene in Multiverse of Madness, I'm like, right on, Michael Stolberg. Love you, man. Dude. Wish you could be in more of this movie. Sorry your agent couldn't get you a bigger check.
Yeah.
I forget who he was in Multiverse of Madness.
He's Nicodemus West, the doctor from the first movie. He's the guy sitting next to him at the wedding.
Yeah, yes, that's right. Oh man.
Yeah, it's one of those characters that's like a big deal in the comics, and you're like, oh, Michael Stuhlbarg, he'll come back in the sequels, and then you see the second movie, you're like, oh no, this is all he's going to do the rest of this entire franchise. He's done now. Okay, we're good. We're good now.
He's done.
Yeah, that's kind of one of those like, well, I'm out of the franchise. Bye, everybody. Kind of roles.
Bye.
Dipping out of this one now.
When it comes to the MCU, though, do you ever really know if anybody's out? Like, would anybody have guessed that Tim Blake Nelson would be coming back this late in the game?
No.
Good question. I mean, is anyone really gone? They're probably going to come back. Well, it's comic book logic.
I was going to say, if it's based on comics, nobody's dead in the comics.
I guess it depends on how bad their career needs a boost at any given moment, really.
Robert Downey Jr.
Yes.
Ooh, don't get me started on that shit again. Ooh, now I'm mad. I'm mad again. Ooh.
Yeah, we got Tucker all worked up a couple weeks ago on that shit.
Oh, that announcement! I was also like, oh no.
We are all of an accord.
It hurts because it's so dumb. It hurts my brain.
Yeah,
that's all. There's pain involved.
You're not wrong. In fact, you're absolutely right. It's the children who are wrong.
Yeah.
It's
the children.
The children. Damn wiener kids. No, there are elements of this movie I like. I love all the various the new characters that we meet. I love the were-jaguar. Like, that was fun. Like, he keeps stabbing himself with something, and I'm like, is he a werewolf? And I really wanted him to be a werewolf. I
thought he was just going to be like Hulk out and be a big monster or something. And that was a character that I started out just really not liking, but as time went on, just the way that he just kind of evolved as a character in that short bit of time that we had with him, I thought was some really impressive acting. And I think whoever wrote that part of the story did a good job writing that character's arc.
Now, he's not in the comics, is he? Or is he in the comics? Is he a character from the comics?
I'm trying to remember if he is. I think that he is.
Okay.
I can't remember when he appears.
Yes, he is a character from the comics. I've got the hero fandom wiki up right now. Trying to see like if they've got like first appearance or anything. But no, apparently he was a part of the comic. I see a picture of him drawn by Mike Mignola, several pictures of him drawn by Mike Mignola here. It doesn't look like he was a Jaguar man, though. It looks like he was something else, much more like sinister and like evil looking. Honestly, it looks really fucking cool is what it looks like. It's this big like red monster thing that's kind of hairy, kind of scaly. Yeah, and then he's just a jaguar in the movie. Kind of makes me wish we'd gotten that.
Speaking of his were-jaguar-y, another time I was thinking of Van Helsing when I was watching this movie was when he transformed. Because it looks just like all the transformations in Van Helsing. Exactly the same.
Yes, exactly the same. I was also thinking the same thing. I'm so glad you said that because the Jaguar, I was like, this is like Hugh Jackman. Although Hugh Jackman's werewolf transformation was very sexy at some points.
Yeah.
That's the one difference.
Interesting angles in that one, I'll tell you what.
I mean, this one, it's sexy when he comes down from it.
Yeah, and he's like holding Kate Beckinsale, like no, and it all the hair just falls off him like so gracefully. I will never unsee that.
Oh, that's such a great movie. I'm so glad I found that on 4K for $5. Best $5 I ever spent.
Oh, I bet.
Van Helsing 4K.
For sure. Good $5.
It looks fantastic because that's a movie that was made right when digital was starting to kind of take over.
Right.
As far as filmmakers using digital instead of actual film. And so it's got that real glossy look of the early 2000s when they first started using digital, and it looks great in UHD. Fantastic. Looks good, you guys. I'm saying buy it.
Okay. Noted.
Maybe spend $10 on it, maybe.
I would.
Like, I got a deal, but it's worth more than $5 for sure.
Van Helsing's worth it.
Dude, yes.
It's my cheeseburger movie. I don't know if you all have those movies where like they're so bad but they're so good. Van Helsing's my cheeseburger movie.
Hell yeah.
That's most of the movies I watch.
It is. Like Tucker's diet is pretty much cheeseburgers.
I love it. You have a cheeseburger diet. That's great.
Whereas my actual diet is mostly cheeseburgers. So there's that.
There you go.
So apparently Ed Skrein, Skrien, sorry, Ed, if I'm butchering your name, and I probably am. He was originally cast as Daimyo, but found out in doing his research that the character was a Japanese-American character in the comic books. And so he's like, you know what? An Asian actor should be playing this role. I'm out. And so the role went to Daniel Day Kim from Lost and other things. Yeah. And that was I think that was a good move, and good for him. And then Day Kim and Skrien met later on and actually became friends as a result of that decision. So yeah,
I love that so much. That's great. Like he recognized and stepped back, and now we have that great performance. So I liked him as a character. I think he was great. I wish we had more of him, honestly. He was one of those pieces of the movie that I felt like they were trying to do something good, and I wanted more of him. And his like relationship with Hellboy, I think it was great, especially because Abe Sapien wasn't in the picture yet. It was good to have him.
Right. I mean, Abe Sapien is barely in this picture. Just the quick hand at the end. Yeah. That one of many teases for the sequel that would never come. And I think they knew opening weekend that sequel would never come.
I want to see the sequel.
I want to see the TV show. Do the sequel as a TV show. That I would watch. I would watch. Yeah. Oh, yes. They actually wanted Doug Jones to come back for that cameo, but he was too busy. Just Doug Jones. Indianapolis, Indiana's own Doug Jones, who played the character in. He's great. Who played the character in the Del Toro films. He was busy on Star Trek Discovery, which is a great show that he is on. I like Star Trek. So
you may be surprised he's a very silly person.
I'm actually not surprised by that at all, actually.
Very, very silly man.
And he was great in What We Do in the Shadows, too. I love that they brought him in for a little bit, and then he's been a regular, and that's been so wonderful to see because he's gotten speaking roles, which is so great because he was usually the pale man in Pan's Labyrinth with the hands, and he got a little bit of speaking lines in Hocus Pocus.
He did Abe Sapien's voice in Hellboy 2. In the first one, it was Niles from Frasier.
It was Niles from Frasier.
In Hellboy 2,
went uncredited for that movie because he didn't want to overshadow Doug Jones's performance.
And then in Hellboy 2, they were just like, "Hey, Doug, you could do that, right?" And he's like, "Yeah, I could do the Niles voice." And so he just did it.
He's like, "I could have done it in the first one too. I thought
why did you tell us that? Why'd you tell us that? We could have saved so much money. We had to buy Niles from Frasier. We didn't even get Frasier from Frasier."
The Niles from Frasier move feels like a producer going, I don't know, we could get one more big name in this movie. That would be great.
Yeah.
And instead, because he wasn't in the credits, everyone's like, is that fucking Niles? Like sitting in the theaters going, wait, that sounds like fucking, is that fucking Niles? Yes, that is fucking Niles. Is that guy from Wet Hot American Summer up there? Really?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, Wet Hot American Summer.
I still need to see that movie. Like, I've been trying to see Wet Hot American Summer.
You will love it.
Watch the whole franchise. 2 films and a TV series. That's the way to do it.
Okay, the whole thing. I'm in.
It's 2 TV series, isn't it?
No, it's 2 films and a TV series.
I thought it was the film and then the TV series and then a second TV series.
Boy, let me tell you what. I'm going to look it up.
Take me to school, please.
Okay, so I could be wrong, but... Okay, you are correct, Steven. It is 1 movie and 2 television series. This. Now, savor this, Steven. Do your little dance. Take it in, because you know this does not happen often where I am wrong. So, I'm letting you have this.
I'm taking it. Okay, I am. I'm inside. I'm doing cartwheels. I'm
fantastic.
I have downstairs neighbors, otherwise I'd probably physically be doing cartwheels. But yeah.
Once again, let me say it one more time for anybody in the back that didn't hear me. Steven was right, and I was wrong.
Woo! All hail.
You did it, Steven. You did it.
All right. That great episode, everybody. Let's shut her down.
There we go. That's it.
Going out on top.
Right? Yeah.
Last episode
Great
ever of
episode.
Disenfranchised. We're all done.
We're done. That's it.
Kat, thank you for being a guest on the last ever episode of this show.
Oh, you're welcome.
I will never be wrong again. We all know
Never
that's
again.
not true.
Wowzers. Wow.
Oh God, we're having too much fun. I love what McShane is doing in this. He was apparently very good friends with John Hurt, and they worked on a film together. The future episode of this podcast, Hercules, together, which McShane said he really loved because they got to like hang out and like have like long leisurely lunches because both of them were barely in that movie. But I like, of course, John Hurt, who played Broom in the first two films. I like he's doing a bit of a different thing, although it feels very similar to what he's doing in American Gods as well. Like a kind of that similar mentor role who's a little bit of an asshole. He talks in his very first scene, he talks about shaving, but he's got a beard in this movie. He's like, yeah, my dad told me to shave every day and he's got a beard. And I'm like, well, then that's not a 5 o'clock shadow, sir. What are we doing here?
Well,
Like,
wait,
What is happening?
did you guys notice that? So Ian McShane starts out the movie as the narrator, but he's speaking in an American accent when he's narrating.
Mhm.
And then in the
Yes.
very next scene, his character comes around and he's speaking in his native accent.
Right.
And I was like, did you not think that we were going to know that was also Ian McShane? What's your game here? What's happening?
I almost wonder if they didn't want him to dub over everything he'd already done. And then while he was in the studio doing that, he ADR'd the narration as well. And then they just decided to scrap the Americanized ADR.
I don't know. It was, and you could tell he did a great job with the narration, but there are some points you could tell it was the first time he'd ever read it. Like, there were some names where he's like, hold on, you can like almost hear him adjusting his glasses. You know?
I love that.
Yeah. He did great. I mean, he knocked it out of the park. There were just a few moments where you're like, yeah, he's sounding out the next word as he's saying this one. Like, I could tell.
He is one of those actors who just like gives everything a shot of instant gravitas just by showing up and saying like 5 words. Like if you just need someone who communicates gravitas just by virtue of their presence, he's one of those guys for sure.
Oh, totally.
Deadwood. Come on, you guys. You seen Deadwood? He is Deadwood. There's no Deadwood without Ian McShane.
100%. Because what else are we going to do? Rely on Timothy Oliphant's personality? No.
He's great, but everything is reactive to Ian McShane in that show. So everyone that's in that show does a great job reacting to him. It's his show. You don't have Deadwood without Ian McShane.
And to be clear, I love Timothy Oliphant, but I like him. He's so much better in comedies than he is in dramas. It's not even funny. I love him. Like his work in Santa Clarita Diet, maybe some of the best work he's ever done. He is so good in that show.
He made me cry a few times in Deadwood.
That's fair. And I've heard Justified is very good. A show I've only watched like 3 episodes of.
Me too. And I was just like, I don't care. I want to care, but I don't.
The reason I want to care is Walton Goggins. I want to see more Walton Goggins.
And Timothy
Walton
Oliphant
Goggins.
in the same show.
Oh,
those two together, yes, please.
Yeah.
But I just couldn't get into it.
Same.
I
I imagine if I give it a season or 2, I'll probably be like better off, but I need to actually like sit and give it the time, you know?
Yeah. Also, Ian McShane with his standout performance in Hot Rod, the thing that he gets noticed for the most out of all the movies that this man has been in, the performances this man has given, and he's known for the silly dick and fart joke movie.
Future episode of this podcast,
fantastic.
Hot Rod.
Yes, it's such a good movie too, and he's great at it too.
We will cover it very soon, within the next few months.
Yeah.
I absolutely loved him in John Wick. Like, what a good performance in John Wick. Oh, those are some of my favorites. I'm a big Keanu Reeves fan. Like The Matrix is one of my top 5 favorite movies. So I loved it. And my upcoming novel, Below the Grand Hotel, took a lot of inspiration from the John Wick Hotel. So yeah,
cool.
I love Ian McShane, and I loved him in American Gods too. Like I was a really big fan of like Brian Fuller and Hannibal, and so obviously loved the first seasons of American Gods that he did. And Ian McShane's just an incredible Odin. Like he was just made for that part. So I thought he made a really great Professor Broom.
What was the other movie, Steven, that we watched recently for the podcast that Ian McShane was in?
That's a great question.
You met me, right? We were talking about him just a few episodes ago.
We were.
Less than 10 episodes ago, I feel like.
I don't remember what that would have been off the top of my head. You keep talking. I'll find out.
Neither. Yeah, I don't know what that was. No, he's great in everything, though. I feel like whenever he comes around, like he's at least going to, when he's in something, the parts that Ian McShane is in something, it's going to be good, even if it's not a good project, is what I'm saying.
Right.
Oh, no, for sure.
Inclined to agree, for sure. Still looking.
Yeah. Nice. Yeah. Steven's having a look there. Oh, the cat knows. The cat knows what it is.
The cat doesn't.
The cat knows.
It's like, I know. You can listen to me. Understand my cat noises. Feed me. Why have you never fed me? Not once have you fed me. See, call the police on you. Here they come. Yes.
Oh, I guess that's my penance, really, when it comes right down to it.
Yeah, I suppose
Sir,
so.
I
feel like
15 minutes before lunch.
Haha, that's what you get, cat. I feel like I should have looked this up because I also feel like I'm about to figure out what it is like in probably about 5 seconds.
I hope you do. Was it Fist? Is he in Fist?
No. Is he in Fist? No. You know who is in Fist, though? Anthony Kiedis, as a boy.
That's true. Baby Anthony Kiedis is in that movie.
He's Sylvester Stallone's son. Some of the relationships he's had as an adult would have been more appropriate when he was that age, you might say.
Yikes.
Oh, man. Oh, I did not say that, did I? I thought I just thought it.
I think we might have just been talking about him tangentially, because I'm not seeing it. I'm seeing a lot of episodes of this podcast a lot of movies that we will cover on this podcast that he's in, but nothing that we've talked about recently that he was in.
Well, see, that's where you got it wrong there, Steven, is that you're going through episodes of the podcast instead of going through his filmography and letting it jump out at you and be like, oh, you covered this, remember? But I also don't see anything, and I'm like down to 1982. So
yeah, I'm also going through his filmography, and I'm seeing things like things that we will cover. For example, where am I at? Hercules, which I said, Jack the Giant Slayer, Sorcerer's Apprentice, where he is an uncredited narrator.
Wait,
Case
the one with
39.
Nicolas Cage? And
yes,
and Jay Baruchel is also in it?
Your best friend, Jay Baruchel. The Golden Compass, The Seeker, The Dark is Rising, Hot Rod, like just a shit ton of movies that he's been in that we're going to cover on this podcast eventually.
That's very exciting. Very exciting.
You have something to look forward to. And he was on that show Kings that I really enjoyed, that kind of retelling of the book of 1 Samuel as a TV show. That I thought was kind of cool. I really do. I'm
That's your
religion
jam.
nerd. Yeah.
Yeah, dude.
I
love you
which
for
is
it.
That was one of the things that I locked in on early in this movie. Like you've got the religious angle, you've got like
Van Helsing.
Like Van Helsing. You know,
yes.
The Jesus-y shit.
That's the double feature from now on. Van Helsing, Hellboy 2019. You don't watch one without the other. From this point
honestly,
on.
That's a creed. The
good
last
combo
act of this movie takes place in St. Peter's Basilica in London, or St. Peter's Cathedral, rather, in London. I don't think it was actually filmed there, obviously, which is, I think that's where the coronations happen, which is that joke at the end where she's like, so you're the King of England now? And I'm like,
Yeah, dude.
is he the King of England? Is the joke just because it's at St. Peter's? Like, is that it?
Well, no, they
Or St.
mentioned
Paul's,
it
rather?
earlier. Something that was really odd because I didn't understand it. They said I think it was the were leopard guy before we were all friends with him. He was saying something about like Hellboy was going to be the King of England, and I was like, I don't really understand that piece of dialogue. But then when they brought it back at the end, I was like, oh, because that was kind of part of the prophecy, but like on a bigger scale. Like, I don't know. It made enough sense to where I was like, okay, I'll allow it.
It was the head of the Wild Hunt. It was the dude with the deer head on him. He was
Yeah.
like, I will not see the throne of England occupied by something.
There you go.
Blah, blah, blah.
Yeah, there you go.
The guy from Sex Education, the principal from Sex
Yes,
Education.
Yes.
Dude, yes.
I turned to my partner. I'm like, is that the principal from Sex Education? She's like, what? I'm like, never mind. I think that's the principal from Sex Education.
He
Not
was
sure
the
why I
guy to
asked.
deliver that line. I will
Right.
not see a demon sit in the throne of England.
Which is just the kind of thing you can see his character from Sex Education saying, just, you know. And I loved the Wild Hunt stuff. Like, I wanted to see, like, because that was the thing I loved about the Marvel special project Werewolf by Night, because it's a bunch of these disparate and various monster hunters just trying to hunt down Man-Thing, the giant-sized Man-Thing. And that was the thing I really dug about that. And I was like, is that what this movie is going to be? And then, like, it's over in like 20 seconds. They're like, oh, good place for an ambush. I agree. Stab. I'm like, I mean, I saw that coming a mile away, but I was hoping like it'd be another 20 minutes before they did it. But no, too much other movie to do, I guess.
Yeah. It's
You
like they
guys-
had these slices they went through very quickly.
Right.
And they
Yeah.
were trying to pull it from other comics like Hellboy and the Wild Hunt. They were trying to pull it in. But yeah, they were just trying to get a lot of those storylines and like show this world of Hellboy, I think. But because of that, we got these like just bits. And I think maybe that's why the giant scene, that's where it started to dip for me, is I'm like, that went over too quickly. Like, it was resolved too quickly. And
Right.
okay, now we're on to the next thing. And I'm like, all right, it got tied in, but wait, I didn't get to emotionally like feel anything before we're on to the next thing. I'm just like, oh wait, he almost got killed. Now we're over here. Now we're over there.
The movie dips, like it gives you that kind of the audience that time to breathe, but the characters don't really get that. Like, and if you're invested in the characters, you should get that time to kind of exhale as well. And then but no, we're on to the next thing. There's plot that has to be taken care of, even if it's just like, well, we know he rested on the way to the next thing. Like, but I don't even know that we get that, because it's like, oh, he's kidnapped by the BPRD. He has to rush to the Osiris Club. And then we're just like, okay, like calm down. Like, I almost wish the Wild Hunt section had been taken out of the movie and made its own separate thing. Like maybe as a prequel to this, or like a short film that they cut specifically for the DVD or something. Because it almost feels like it just kind of murks up the front part of this movie. Like, you could have made this thing a cool 90, left that part out, and I don't think you would have lost, other than the, you know, kick-ass fight scene with the giants, you wouldn't have lost a lot from the movie as a whole, I think.
Yeah, and I get like narratively they're trying to have Hellboy fight some monsters while Nimue is growing in power, so that you see what he's doing, what his job is. So I get the point of that, trying to show that in the film. But I agree with you that felt like its own separate movie to me. It felt like a separate, like that would be an episode of the TV show. Like, that is the self-contained kind of thing. And that, I think that's why we're all sensing that like, I wish this was a TV show. It's like, this was an episode. This was an episode that was strung together so that Hellboy would be doing something while Nimue is gathering her body parts, growing back to full strength, and trying to open hell.
Yeah.
Unlike in Beetlejuice, where we didn't really get that at all. It's just she was together, and every once in a while she'd suck somebody's soul, just so we remember she was there.
Right.
It's almost the same kind of villain in both of those movies. It's like maybe Tim Burton or whoever wrote Beetlejuice didn't realize that they almost kind of ripped that off from this Hellboy movie. But it's almost like the same villain. But in, like I said, like you were saying, in this one, like we get some stuff, you know, to sort of fill that time without taking her character completely out of it just to come back in the end, like they did in Beetlejuice. Like, she does appear, and she has scenes of dialogue with the pig guy, and like you get a sense that there's something going on. You know she's going to betray him, obviously. So the back and forths between them are always fun, just to hear how she words things, because he's too stupid to catch all the monkey's paws she's throwing into all her shit.
And every single sentence she says to him is, in effect, like, you'll get what's coming to you. And he's like, all right, great,
you'll
cool.
get your due for sure. Yeah.
Right.
And he's like, yeah, that's fantastic. I was like, woo. I'm like,
woo, love that for me. Voiced by Stephen Graham, who is an actor I really love. Gangs of New York, The Irishman. I think the first thing I saw him in was Snatch, Guy Ritchie's Snatch, where he plays Tommy the Tit. God, Stephen Graham's a great actor. And the whole time I'm going, I know that voice. Where do I know that voice from? Like, at first I was like, Idris Elba? And I'm like, no, he's too big for this movie. And in 2019, Idris Elba is not doing a voice in a movie like this. So, and then I caught the credits and it was Stephen Graham, and I was like, oh, I love Stephen Graham. That guy's awesome. I want to see Stephen Graham do more work. I just want him to be working all the time.
Well,
he's the best.
Can we?
Me too.
How do we collectively feel about David Harbour in this movie?
Oh, let's have a conversation.
Okay. Now
David.
judging by your immediate reactions, let me go first.
Okay.
Because
all right.
I thought he was fantastic. I thought this film kind of I'm starting to realize that David Harbour's actually a really good actor that can do a lot of different things. And like, it took me a while to notice that. And like, the first time I noticed it was like, I seen Stranger Things, and I saw the Black Widow and all that stuff. And he's fun in both of those. And he does play very distinct characters, and that's cool. But when he hosted Saturday Night Live a couple years ago, he did a pre-taped sketch that was a parody of Joker, but he was Oscar the Grouch. And
no way.
It's one of the best things I've ever seen in my life, and he sells it. Like, it's a Leslie Nielsen kind of thing. He's not being funny because he's being silly. He's being funny because he's really taking it seriously. You know what I mean?
That's amazing.
Yeah.
Oh, it's so good. It's called Grouch. It's called Grouch.
Oh my gosh, I'm writing that down. I gotta watch this later.
I'm gonna put it in the show notes, and I'm actually gonna go ahead and link to it in the chat here.
Yeah, dudes. It's
awesome.
So good. And like, when I saw that, I was like, oh man, this guy, I think this guy's something. Like, and I'm really happy for him, because he's got to be making so much money, because everything that he does is high profile, big franchise. Like, the man is in all of the big IPs. You know he's making that money, but I can't wait until his career slows down a little bit and he actually does some real acting. Because damn, he's going to be good in indie movies in about 10 years. Whew, can't wait for that.
I mean, he did the 2021 Soderbergh movie, No Sudden Move, and he's really good in that one. The one with Brendan Fraser and Don Cheadle and Benicio del Toro. It's great.
I forgot about that. That came out, and I completely forgot about it. And now I'm mad that I forgot, but I'm happy that you reminded me, and now I have to see it.
Yeah, he's actually very good in that, and it's an actual serious role. And he gets to share the screen with some really awesome people too. So, I mean, nice. Like, and you're right. He's done a lot of big stuff, and he continues to do a lot of big stuff. He's in the TV movie Frankenstein's Monster Frankenstein, which I need to see because I just love that title so much. But I mean, even before he was working on Stranger Things, which he blew up, he was doing a lot of kind of smaller things in like Black Mass, that weird Johnny Depp movie. He was in that. He was on the TV show The Newsroom, that Aaron Sorkin show, for about 10 episodes on there. So I mean, he's done some work. He's in the first Denzel Washington Equalizer movie.
Why does he always make that face on the poster? Denzel. Why does he always if it's an Equalizer movie, he always does this?
I mean, that's like, why does
the Equalizer? Is that his character? I've never seen the movie, but does his character make that face a lot? Because I've never seen him make that face in any other role or film. But on every Equalizer poster, he's like,
I have to
Yeah, I
imagine
don't
that's the
get it.
character.
Okay.
And he's in a movie directed by the director of Bright, a movie we discussed on this podcast a couple months ago.
Yeah.
End of Watch with Jake Gyllenhaal and Michael Pena. He's in that one too. So.
Oh, that's a good movie. I
Oh,
think.
and remember Tucker when he was in the Green Hornet? That when we recovered the Green Hornet and he was in that.
Yeah, I liked that movie.
You remember that? You did.
I remember that. I liked that movie.
So I mean, yeah, David Harbour. Like, I like him as an actor. I really like him as an actor. It's a different take on the character, and it's not necessarily that I don't enjoy it. It's just so hard for me. And again, going back to kind of what I was saying at the beginning of the episode, it's hard for me to disengage this movie from the Del Toro movies and to see this as its own thing. Tonally, it's very much its own thing. Visually, it's very much its own thing. But like I find such a link between Hellboy and Ron Perlman in my brain that it's tough for me to see literally anyone else playing that part. And I don't think Harbour does a bad job here. Honestly, he might be my favorite part of this movie. Just like as a whole, he's probably my favorite part of this film. I like what he does. It's just very different from what I'm used to. And it took me a while to get on the wavelength he was on.
Well, and I think that's everybody involved in this movie. Kind of when it came out and died, I think they realized that they were fighting a losing battle no matter how good this movie was, because Ron Perlman is Hellboy to so many people. Right. And it had it been 10 years since the second one?
Yeah, more
really?
than.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'm just saying it hadn't been long enough for us to like want somebody else in the roles. I get that.
I mean,
I don't
it's the
share
Andrew
that
Garfield
sentiment, but I get
Spider-Man
it.
problem. Like, no
Absolutely.
one did anyone really connect with Andrew Garfield? And that was like 5 years. But did anyone really connect with Andrew Garfield as
I did
as Spider-Man? Of course you did. If anyone's going to, it's going to be you.
I just love Andrew Garfield. He's fantastic, and I love Tobey Maguire too. But Andrew Garfield is just he's the kind of caliber actor that like. Sorry, Toby, but you're out of your league, bud. Like, this is Andrew Garfield. Okay.
Oh.
Yeah. Have you seen him in The Eyes of Tammy Faye? Damn, he's good in that movie. You need to see The Eyes of Tammy Faye. That is a fantastic movie. You're going to love it. Everybody's going to love it. Let's all go watch it right now after we watch Grouch.
And, well, you've got to watch No Sudden Move, so.
I put it, it's on Max, so I just put it on my list. My watch list.
Kat, David Harbour thoughts.
I have a lot. So I'm a huge Stranger Things fan. I was such a big fan. I auditioned to be an extra in Stranger Things 3. I got it. So I was a background character in 2 scenes. I was in the mall in season 3 when the lights go out in the mall in the first episode. And then I was also in the mall protest scene, and I got to be by the car that David Harbour drives, like the police chief. It's a lot smaller in person. I don't know how David fit in there because he's a big guy, but he was on set that day. I didn't get to see him, but so was Carrie Ells. So I'm a really big Stranger Things fan. It was filmed in my hometown of Atlanta. It was like right downtown from me, and I loved that experience. It was so great. And so I'm on David Harbour's side. Like whatever he does, I like want to follow his career with great interest. But I also loved him in Violent Night. Like, can we talk about him as Santa for a second? Because he made a really great Viking Santa. I loved that movie. It was a romp. He was having a fun time. I enjoyed watching him have a fun time. Kill all those house invaders. So it was really fun.
I need to see that one. I haven't seen that one yet.
Oh, you got it. This holiday season, you gotta watch that movie. And then there's a new weird Santa holiday movie coming out with The Rock this year, so that would be a great double features, those two. But back to David Harbour and Hellboy, I felt like when I was watching him, my first impression was like, oh, this guy gets why Ron Perlman was so memorable. He almost I felt like he studied the character. He saw the humor. He saw that kind of disgruntled teenager vibe that Ron Perlman had, and he tried to do it in his own way. He tried to be funny. He tried to really show his relationship with his dad, how complicated that was, how complicated his feelings were about being from hell, and also a human figuring out, oh, I am also part human. That's why I want to protect humans so much. And like, you could see him go through all these really big emotions. He is trying so hard that whole film. And you could tell he like wanted to pay a lot of respect to Ron Perlman in his performance. But man, the way it was cut, the way it was done, I felt bad for him because he clearly wanted to do this so bad. Like he clearly liked the character, he liked the story, he like really researched it. I could feel that in what he did in his performance. And I'm like, dude, you did great. I'm sorry, it really flopped. And I feel the same way about Mila. Like she poured everything into it. She even said, I think in an interview, like, I have nothing to be ashamed of with this at all. I know it's a flop or whatever, but I've been part of a lot of flops and I did a great job. And I'm like, damn right you did. You did an amazing job as the Blood Queen. Hell yes. Like, so I feel that way about everyone's performance of this. Like, you could tell, like, Sasha Lane, Twisters came out this year and she was in it and she was like flying the drone and I was like, I remember you from Hellboy. I loved you in Hellboy. I'm so happy you're in Twisters. You're great. I loved Sasha. So it was nice to see her in another like big blockbuster movie of the summer. But yeah, and I'm trying to remember who plays the medium. She was wonderful. The Victorian medium who was blind. What was her character's
Sophia
name?
Canedo.
Gray? Gray? Madam Gray?
Yeah, she was wonderful. I loved her. She was so elegant and graceful and just gorgeous. And yeah, like everyone was trying so hard to make this a good movie. And David especially. David was like, I know this is an iconic character. I will give it my best shot. I will do my best Hellboy. And it felt like he was trying to do his best Ron Perlman in some moments. So, and he was funny. Like, I'm a Capricorn and you're fucking crazy was great. That was so funny. I laughed out loud in the theater. I think David's naturally funny, but it's in a different way than Ron Perlman is. And it's they were given different, storylines to hold up. They were given like different things to do. Right. And we got those moments, I think, with Ron Perlman where we have that time as an audience to react and breathe to something that just emotionally happened, and it allows us to deepen the character relation, like to really connect with the Ron Perlman Hellboy. And with David Harbour, we're just going from moment to moment to moment, and there's not really a time to breathe and like sit in whatever feeling Hellboy is feeling, that he's trying to deliver on screen. So I think that's part of why it wasn't as connective.
I think the editing, a lot of the editing in this movie did not do it any favors. I think that one of the weakest points of this film was the editing. It could be a little incoherent in spots. It could be distracting, which is the worst kind of editing, is distracting editing. Yes. No, don't distract me. Don't remind me I'm watching a movie because you suck at editing.
Right? And like the one time we really sit with Hellboy's feelings for a moment is when Broom dies. And that I like teared up. I really did in the theater. I felt it with him. But everything else, he's just going moment to moment, like quippy the whole time. Right. And I know he's going through a lot of feelings because you see him like feeling them in a big way, but we don't spend any time on it as an audience.
Yeah.
And we need to. Like, we absolutely need to in order for us to be able to have that relationship with the character. Tucker joked earlier that I kind of checked out during the character development, but there's not enough of it really to really flesh out these characters. Like, we get, I think, bare minimum. And I think in some ways the movie's kind of relying on the previous versions of the movie to kind of transfer some of that goodwill and some of that character development into some of these characters. Whether that's intentional, it probably is not intentional, but it feels like it's allowing the movie to do, or the previous adaptations to do some of that heavy lifting for them to get us connected with these characters. And unfortunately, they're not doing enough to make us care about these iterations of these characters, which is a bummer.
Yeah, it is a bummer. And I don't blame David for it, at all. He really did the best he could. I don't blame any actor in this movie. They all really gave it their best. They all really cared, and you could tell. They wanted this to be good. And what can we say apart from that? They tried. They tried so hard.
And I don't really have a bad thing to say about any of the performances either. Like it's like these are actors getting a paycheck and they're doing really good work. And I would say probably, doing a better job than we would see in probably most Marvel adaptations, to be honest with you. Not to throw any undue shade at Marvel movies, but come on, most people in those movies are just collecting paychecks. Like these guys are collecting paychecks and actually working for them. So, like, I don't know. I feel like everyone, and it's people that we don't often see work at this level from. Like, it's like Mila Jovovich. Like, when's the last time she did a big blockbuster that wasn't directed by someone named Paul W.S. Anderson?
Yeah.
Like we don't get to see her act at this level anymore in this kind of a movie in the way that we used to when she was doing stuff like The Fifth Element. And I mean, yes, it's directed by Paul W.S. Anderson, but those first couple Resident Evil movies where she's kind of performing at that high action level, like, and to see her play a villain.
I'm sorry. Do you remember that movie where she's face blind? Did y'all see that?
I don't think
Which
I did.
movie was that?
Mila Jovovich. Someone say her last name, Jovovich.
Jovovich.
Did I do it right?
You got there.
Okay.
Yeah, Jovovich.
There's a movie where she's face blind. Are there 2 L's in her name?
Yes. And 2 V's as well.
Again, I bring
Is it Zoolander? I fucking love her in Zoolander. She's amazing in Zoolander. Not in Zoolander 2 so much, but in the first Zoolander, she's amazing.
Oh, she's so great. I loved her in that movie.
She's so funny. Was it, she kept calling, what was the designer? It was like Kathy Ireland or Kathy Lee Gifford or whatever. She kept calling her, calling the main female character after whatever designer she was wearing. She's like, no, it's Jacqueline Smith, and it's from Kmart. And she's like, oh, it's so funny.
I found it. It's called Faces in the Crowd. It's from straight up 2011. It's directed by Julian Magnat. And she plays this gal who has face blindness. And she gets that face blindness through trauma after surviving a serial killer's attack. And you guys, it's real good. Put it on your list. No need to put it up high priority. Just throw it on there. You'll get to it. It's good though. It's good.
Well, looking at this cast list, it feels pretty obvious who the killer is, but
right. It's always fun when they do that. It's like, this one's clearly the villain.
I was watching a show recently that had 3 high-profile actors in it, and 2 of them are in like every episode. I'm like, oh well, that other one's got to be the killer, and I was right. So, yeah. I was just like, if we're going by what's the rules of Law and Order, and why wouldn't we be? The most famous person in the episode's got to be the killer.
Yeah.
Like, oh, is it New York character actor number 7? Or is it like Robin fucking Williams? Gee, I wonder who the killer could be.
Who could it be? I love that. I love that for us as the audience.
Phenomenal. When they do that, there's like, do they think we don't know? And I think they don't think we know. And I would love to see them play into those expectations. Like, hey, here's a really famous person. They probably did it, right? Nope, it's this guy you've never seen before in his breakout role. I would kind of love that if they did that.
It's called Murder, She Wrote.
Oh, yeah, that's right. Mm-hmm.
Did Jessica Fletcher ever team up with Columbo? Because that seems like something that should have happened.
No, unfortunately, no.
I know she teamed up with Magnum.
Yes, there was the Magnum PI episodes. That's for sure. I always wanted her to team up with straight up both Matlock and Diagnosis Murder. Let's get all 3 of them in there. Because you get me some Angela Lansbury, Dick Van Dyke, and Andy Griffith in the same show, I'd never get up from the chair.
The Geriatric Mystery Club?
It. Yes, please. Please, yes.
That would have ruled. That would have ruled.
Yes.
Only
Diagnosis Murder us, right? and Matlock did cross over quite a few times.
Right.
But Andy Griffith is dead. Dick Van Dyke is still alive, and Angela Lansbury is dead.
Yes. So we're down to. I mean, it's just Dick Van Dyke now.
He's still a pistol, man. Sharp as a tack. Did you watch that special? They had a special.
No, I did not watch the special.
Straight up Dick Van Dyke's Damn Near 100 TV special. That's not what it was. I'm paraphrasing, of course.
I wish that is what they'd called it.
That would be great. If
I so wish they'd called it that. Dick Van Dyke's Damn Near 100.
Yes.
Here are all the people he's worked with that he's survived, and it's like Carl Reiner and Mary Tyler Moore and Andy Griffith.
He's like 98 and like on the red carpet to go to his own special. This 98-year-old man is like dancing around, being a silly boy. He still can speak articulately in complete sentences and sounds smart and young, and he's just so old. Dick Van Dyke is, I think, one of our greatest living treasures. When he goes, I don't know what's going to happen to the world, honestly.
And this spoken by a man who's never seen the movie Mary Poppins.
Really? That's upsetting.
Really?
No, that's his favorite movie.
It is my favorite movie of all time.
Oh, I love that.
That's Tucker's favorite movie of all time. Show her your tattoo, Tucker.
Oh, speaking of, I got a new tattoo, and it's right by Mary. See, there's Mary. There's Mary.
Wow.
And then I got a number 13 right there because of that Rug Burns song. But yeah,
Mary's I love that.
Yeah, there you go.
I have movie tattoos too. I love that. That's great.
Nice.
I don't yet, but I will.
I got Jaws on one leg and then Evil Dead in the other.
I've got Mary Poppins, I've got Brick, and I've got The Truman Show.
Oh, good picks. Brick is so good. So is The Truman Show. Yeah.
Yeah. Good stuff.
I just saw Brick for the first time not that long ago.
Yeah.
On Tucker's recommendation.
Loved it.
It's good.
Loved it.
It's a good movie.
So
I liked it a lot.
It's such a good movie. Oh my God.
That's where Ryan Johnson, he got me. I will forever watch everything that he does because of Brick. Because it shouldn't work. It shouldn't work. Like none of that should work. But somehow that man, he did it. And he did it for the good of all mankind.
Yeah, he did.
He did it for all of us, whether we appreciate it or not.
That's right.
What other thoughts do we have to share about the 2019 Hellboy film, party people?
I got to get ready for work soon. I'm having a lot of hot flashes, so none for me.
Okay. Kat, closing thoughts?
I think my closing thought is to give it another watch, and then to also keep your keep your ears open for any news that The Crooked Man's going to be released in the US, because I would love to be able to support that film and watch it, and we can talk about our reactions about it then too. But I think 2019 Hellboy deserves some love, and it is what it is. What happened to it happened. It could have been this really, really great Hellboy adaptation, but I think it still has a lot of its own merits, and it's still worth watching and checking out if people haven't already. And if they watched it, they're like, oh, I hated it the first time, I would recommend going back and giving it another look. Give it another shot. That's what my closing thought is.
Yeah, I would say definitely worth a watch. Make your own decisions, but no, I would say definitely worth a watch for sure. The Hellboy movie came out on Wednesday, April 10th, 2019. It opened third in its opening weekend to $12.04 million, on its way to $55 million worldwide, 22 million domestic, another 32 international. So we're looking at 54, right around 54 million on a budget of 50 million. So no, that's a bomb. That's a big old bomb, people. Sorry to say. Opening at number one, or I guess not opening because it had opened the week before. In its second weekend, Shazam.
Yes.
A movie I enjoy.
I had fun with that movie.
I didn't bother to see the sequel because I was kind of like, how are you going to do this better than you did it the first time?
It's a fun and forgettable for me. Like, yeah, I had fun, but I don't give any kind of shit about it, and I'm probably never going to watch it again.
That's fair.
You know what I mean?
That's fair. In second place, Little, which I think is the Tyler Perry film, Little.
I thought it was the prequel to Big.
No.
Damn.
Similar. I mean, you got Regina Hall in there though, Issa Rae. So Marsai Martin, like some good people in there. Tyler Perry produced. Sorry, Tina Gordon is the director on that one. My apologies.
Oh, well, thank you for correcting that.
I needed to. I felt I needed to.
Yeah, dude, yeah.
Third place, Hellboy. Fourth place, Pet Sematary, the remake of Pet Sematary, which
that was okay.
I will go on record and saying not as good as the original Pet Sematary,
but it was okay. I still liked it.
It was okay.
I liked how everything was the same, but kind of exactly the opposite, and which made it different.
In fifth place, rounding out our top five, a director who we talked about on this episode, a director we've talked about twice. We've covered twice already this month. It was his last film before his new release that came out just a few weeks ago. It's Dumbo from Tim Burton.
Oh boy.
Yep.
Oh, wow.
What could have been his dying breath as a director? It could have been. And it almost was. To hear him tell it, he almost retired from it.
Wow.
Yeah. And would any of us have blamed him? I don't think we would have.
No.
The man hasn't made a good movie since Big Fish.
Yeah.
I'm inclined to agree. Wait, did Sweeney Todd come after Big Fish? Because I would say Sweeney Todd. Because I like Sweeney Todd.
Well,
I
and
like
it's
Sweeney
hard
Todd too.
How do you fuck up Sweeney Todd?
It's flawed, but I still like it.
How do you fuck that up? Yeah, dude.
And maybe your insistence on casting your wife and everything. I don't know. Moving on. Rounding out the top 10, we've got Captain Marvel at number 6. Jordan Peele's Us at number 7. Opening at number 8 is After. Opening at number 9, the Hugh Jackman film Missing Link. That's the stop motion one where he is the Sasquatch.
Oh.
And then in 10th place, The Best of Enemies, which I think is that's that film with Sam Rockwell and Taraji P. Henson, where Sam Rockwell continues his streak of playing racists. And we're all kind of like, Sam Rockwell, why do you keep doing this? Please don't keep doing this. Yes, he won an Oscar for playing Yes, but he won an Oscar playing a racist.
Did he win for 3 Billboards?
Yes, he did.
Ugh, what a movie to win anything for.
And so, Frances McDormand also won for that movie, her second of 3 Oscars for that movie.
You guys, I love everybody involved with that movie, but I didn't get why people liked it. It was so bad.
I never saw it. I like that director. I like Martin McDonagh. I love everything else of it. I think that is the only movie of his that he's directed that I've not seen. I've seen all the others. Like I've seen Banshees of Inisherin, I've seen In Bruges, I've seen I've seen 7 Psychopaths, but I haven't seen 3 Billboards.
But 3 Billboards, it's one of those movies that you feel like you're supposed to like it, and maybe that's why people do. But I just couldn't figure out what was so good about it. Normally, like, even if I don't like, you know this about me, Steven, even if I don't like a movie, I can appreciate the things that other people obviously enjoy about it. I can see those things and be like, yeah, that's great, but it's just not for me. Right. But I don't get it. I don't get it with 3 Billboards. It doesn't make any sense to me. It's just a garbage fucking movie that won a bunch of Oscars for some reason.
I don't know, man.
But it do be like that sometimes.
I don't know. It do be like that sometimes. I don't get it either.
The tomatometer score on Hellboy is a 17%. A little rude.
Oh, boo.
Little rude. The critics' consensus, bereft of the imaginative flair that made earlier Hellboys so enjoyable, this soulless reboot suggests Dante may have left a 10th circle out of his inferno. Unfair, but I think that's really funny. I'm not gonna lie.
Oh, I get it now. So movie critics are just failed creative writers, and they're more interested in being clever and sounding smart than actually reviewing fucking movies. Got it.
You're just now figuring that out?
It. Yes. I'm just now figuring that out. Got it. Okay.
Welcome.
Yes. Thank you. I have arrived.
About time. About damn time.
That's it.
The Metascore is 31 based on generally unfavorable reviews from 44 critics. Tucker, you want to take a stab at that Letterboxd score?
Oh man, this one's a hard one. On Letterboxd, if Letterboxd is going to do what Letterboxd does, I'm going to
And it
say
might.
this sits between. This is such a hard one. 2.4 and 2.8.
So close. 2.0.
Fuck a duck. Really, Letterboxd?
2.0 on the nugget, my friend.
Nugget.
I said
That's
nugget.
wild.
All right, Kat, out of 5 stars, what are you giving the 2019 Neil Marshall Hellboy?
I'm trying to remember what I gave it on Letterboxd. I think I gave it like 3 stars, and I was being generous because I felt bad. It's probably lower, but yeah, we'll give it 3.
We'll put you in at 3, no problem.
I'll put it at 3.
Tucker, what about you?
Well, now this, I really don't know what to rate it because, like I said, for the first 2/3 of the film, I was not really enjoying it. And then the third act came around and made me retroactively enjoy the first 2 acts. So I feel like to give a proper rating on this, I need to watch it again. But we're here now and I don't have to do that. So based on the entire experience I had watching it this time, I'm going to go 2.75. But I feel like it's at least going to be a 3 the next time I see it. At least.
Okay. And it's a 2.5 for me.
That's fair.
So that's kind of where I land on it. But I like it. Like, again, I don't dislike the movie. I had a good time watching it. And at the end of the day, it's fine. Look, guys, it's fine.
Yeah.
It's fine.
Tonight. Yeah.
There are things I really liked about it. There are things I really didn't like about it. So when all is said and done, it's fine. It's a 2.5. I've given movies, a lot of movies worse, including a couple of movies that we've watched recently. Listen to our last week's episode. But yeah, we're like, this one, not as bad as like some movies like Battlefield Earth, which we talked about last week. I was like, there's no way that can be as bad as everyone says it is. And then it was worse. Like this one, I was like, is this movie as bad as everyone says it is? And no, it's not. It's not that bad. Is it great? No, but it's not as bad as everyone says it is. Like
there's greatness in it.
Yeah.
There's greatness in it. There's a lot of potential for greatness in it.
Correct.
Wow.
But I mean, ultimately, is it a successful film? I'm going to say no. Would it have been more successful as a television show? I would say yes.
Yeah.
And that's kind of what
agreed.
With a few less cooks in the kitchen, maybe.
Right. Or maybe everyone's contributing in a writer's room environment.
I would say, like a writer's room instead of somebody writes it and then it goes to somebody else to rewrite and it goes to somebody else to rewrite. That's not how you do that. That's not a good way to do that at all.
No.
Yeah, particularly, and I think that's a flaw in the film writing process is that there are so many hands on stuff, and then, script doctors and people that come in to do punch up, and like there's a couple jokes in this movie that felt very ADR, like why is there hair on your tongue? Like, I didn't see David Harbour's lips moving. I don't think he said that on the day. I'm pretty sure he recorded that after the fact, and they just ADR'd it in as Baba Yaga's making out with his face. So
there were a few instances of that I noticed as well.
Yeah. So that's just the line that I remember that felt ADR to me. But yeah, that's it. That's our episode on Hellboy.
Straight up did it.
Cat Scully. God, let's not wait 2 years before we have you on again, because I love having you on this podcast. Our listeners love having you on this podcast. You love having you on this podcast. We should just always be having Cat on this podcast. I know you're like the busiest person in the world. I know you've been writing like crazy. You had a video game come out last year. Like, you've been insanely busy. Tell us what you've got going on, what you're working on, what you have worked on, where we can find you online. Cat, plug away.
All right. So I have a novel coming out next year that is Gatsby meets Hellraiser. It's going to be out with Clash Books next May. And it's about a pickpocket who picks the wrong pocket, loses her soul to a hotel run by demons. Now she's got to use her thieving skills to steal her soul back before she becomes a full demon herself. And I am super excited for that release. I just got ARCs last night at Victoria Dalbay's launch party for Celine Shade. And I have them and they're gold. And I asked them to do the Baz Luhrmann Gatsby intro style for the front cover, but add blood. Because that's awesome. The whole vibe. And yeah, they did it. This cover's by Matthew Revert. He did an incredible job on it. And I think the final copy is going to have like raised, embossed on some of the gold. So it's going to be really, really great. You can find out more about that. I'll be posting news on all of my social media channels. I'm at catherinescully.com. My social media is all the same between TikTok, Instagram, Twitter. It's Cat, C-A-T-M, Scully, like Dana Scully, S-C-U-L-L-Y. That's all the same social media handle. And Clash Books is publishing it, so they will have everything on their website. But yeah, we're gearing up for a really big launch party. What I'm hoping is to do a 1920s Gatsby-style ball here in either Beverly or Salem, Massachusetts. And I have some guests that are coming. I'm going to announce soon. They're going to be part of the performance that night. And I have cocktails for each of my demons, inspired by all the characters. And I have a local bartender that's going to be, we're going to do kind of a series of how to make each of the cocktails. And I cannot wait. This is going to be a really big launch. And
that's so fucking cool.
It's going to be so cool. So that's what I've been busy with behind the scenes. But I'd love to come on the show more often because this is always such a blast to hang out with y'all. And movies are so important to me. They're such a big influence on all the work that I write. And I would love to be back.
Well, we would love to have you back. We actually we weren't able to get the schedules to work out last year, but you've been teasing Below the Grand Hotel pretty much since your first appearance, but you had also been teasing something that we wanted to get you down to talk about last year. Weren't able to work it out schedule wise. The video game that you've been working on forever came out last year, Romancelvania. Tell us a little bit about that since you didn't get to plug that last year.
Oh, I would love to. So Romancelvania was a dream come true because I've been a big BioShock fan for 10 years or more. I would play it every holiday season. And when I moved here to Boston from Atlanta, I was on a panel at BosCon, a local sci-fi fantasy convention here. It takes place downtown. And I was approached after one of my panels where I was speaking about art and animation. My friend Amanda Gardner, who I'd known for years online, we're both authors, both agented, asked me if I ever wanted to work in video games. And I came from Cartoon Network, like doing motion graphics for commercials there. So I was like, I think I could do a video game. I think I could learn Unreal. And she said, well, what's your favorite game? And I was like, BioShock. And she's like, oh, my husband made BioShock. And we have a studio now. And Bill Gardner was the lead level designer on Fort Frolic, Welcome to Rapture, and the Medical Pavilion, if you've played those games. And then he was also one of the leads on BioShock Infinite. And then when Irrational folded, he opened his own studio, the Deep End Games. And they had their first game that came out was Perception, which was a blind protagonist in a haunted house. And you could use your cane to kind of echolocate the ghosts in the house. And it's awesome. It was really great. And we worked on Romancelvania, which was a Castlevania parody. Dracula laying and slaying his way to true love. There are, I think, like 18 dateable monsters in that. And we were having a fun time. It's comedic, it's romance, and it's also like a platformer, like Castlevania style, where you can go in and like fight monsters. And that was amazing to get to work with some of my video game heroes on a game that we released last year. It was such a wonderful experience, and I'd love to work on another game, truly. I think that would be great. But yeah, Romancelvania was such a great project. It was so much fun. And I highly recommend checking it out. It's on Steam. There have been some like holdups with getting it on like Switch and everything, because the war in Ukraine has affected game development and the process of getting things on Switch. So a lot of that has been delayed, like the physical copies and everything. But it's on Steam. You can play it today, so I recommend going and checking it out.
I'll make sure to put that in the show notes as well, because I want to make sure that people are able to get a hold of and play that. Absolutely. So check it out. I'm seeing right here. There it is on Steam. I could probably play it on my computer. I might have to delete a few things, but I could probably do it. Right on.
Yeah.
Hell yeah. I'm not, and Tucker and Brett will both tell you, I'm not a big video game guy, but for you, Kat, I would make the exception.
Oh, thank you so much.
Absolutely. Again, we're going to have you on sooner than later. Let's powwow after this and see if we can't figure out a couple more movies you might want to cover.
Yes, please.
We absolutely want to get you back as soon as possible. See that, guys? We want to get the good guests always back, always. Even if we don't mention it on the air, we're always trying to get the good guests back. So, and Kat, you're one of the best. You're one of my favorites for sure. So anytime.
Thank you so much.
Doors always open. If there's like a movie that you want to talk about, just slide into the DMs and be like, hey, this movie. And I'll be like, yep, you got it.
We're on it.
So, yes, this has been our Hellboy episode of the Disenfranchised Podcast. You can find Disenfranchised wherever you get your podcasts. Shoot us an email at disenfranchpod@gmail.com. Let us know how we're doing. Let us know what failed franchise starter you would like to see us cover, if one that we have not covered yet, or maybe there's one that you would like to see us cover again. Maybe you're like, I didn't like what you did with that one. Cover it again. And we might consider it. Maybe.
We're not gonna, it's not going to happen.
I can't see that happening, but stranger things have happened.
But you can certainly try.
Like David Harbour playing Hellboy. That's a thing that happened. That's a stranger thing that happened.
Sure.
It is literally a stranger thing that happened.
Exactly.
Yes, I love that pun.
You can find us on most forms of social media at disenfranchpod. Really, the only two that I update now are Instagram and Blue Sky, but we're on some others as well. You can just, join the fan club and follow us there. You can join our Patreon, patreon.com/disenfranchpod. Tucker has promised that he is going to release those What Are We Watching episodes that we recorded in, when was it, Tucker? May?
I released them yesterday, dingus.
Oh, he released them yesterday. I am a dingus.
You don't get notifications from the Patreon?
I'm not a subscriber
You're
anymore.
a patron. Oh, well, you're on the free tier, right?
Yeah, and they didn't get released on the free tier. They got released on the paid tier.
Oh, okay, you're right. Yeah. Oh, gosh, that sucks for you, Steven.
Yeah.
Oh,
I wish I could afford to pay myself $5 again. I know I could.
You could just log in and listen to it on the.
Well, go listen to those long
account.
promised episodes of What Are We Watching from May that have finally been released. And Tucker is already planning an entire episode just of his shit for What Are We Watching for the next one. So that's going to be like
every day.
A 5-hour-long proposition that Brett and I are just going to be held hostage for. It's going to be great. Tell all your friends.
Sleeping bag, bring it all.
Absolutely. S'mores.
Pit toilet.
Yeah, you'll need that for sure. And that's at the $5 level. At the free level, you will get every episode that comes out. This episode, you might be listening to it on Patreon right now. And if you are, just leave us a little something in the comments and let us know that you are, because this is the official conversation of the Disenfranchised Podcast on patreon.com/disenfranchpod. Leave us also a 5-star rating and review, please and thank you, on the podcatcher of your choice, but most specifically if you are listening on Apple Podcasts or on Spotify. That goes a long way to helping us find other people like you who might want to listen to people like us.
Yeah, dude.
I'm your host, Stephen Foxworthy. You can find me on, Instagram, Blue Sky, and what's the third one? Letterboxd at Chewy Walrus. My authorial notes are not as vast as Kat's. I did write a book with my partner earlier this year called Check In, Check Out. You can find that on Amazon. I still have your copy, Tucker. Don't worry about it.
Can't fucking find mine, Steven. I bought that, like 3 months ago? You can't sign it and send it to a motherfucker?
I've already signed it.
Both of those things.
No. I mean, if you live close to a post office, I'm sure it does.
I guarantee you live closer to a post office than I do, Stephen.
That may or may not be true, but getting there is probably not as easy. I can't just drop shit in a mailbox. I don't have a mailbox to drop shit in.
Well, I never. It's all right. One day
you
I'll
never
get it.
will. Yeah, you will.
You just give it
You
to me
will.
at Christmas.
I might wrap it as a
At
Christmas
this point,
present
you
for
might
you
as
too.
fucking well, yeah.
Yeah. Hi, here's a thing you bought for yourself. Merry Christmas. Brett, our absent co-host, who has returned to the fifth circle of hell. I don't know which one's the fifth one. I don't remember. I don't have the Inferno here with me. Brett,
I think it's Liars.
Oh, well, he's not in that one. He's in the one, the people who work too much. That's the circle he's in. I think, what did he say? He lurks on Instagram at sus_warlock, and he's definitely will update his letterboxed at sus_warlock as well. Tucker, what about you? Where can we find you on social medias these days?
Well, if I may add to the discussion about the Patreon and my the ramblings about what are we watching, what I do plan to do, since I do have this monstrous list, I want to make this something interactive with the people who listen to our show, specifically the people who pay us money on Patreon. Hey, people who pay us money on Patreon. Straight up, what I'm about to do is at some point before we record the episode of What Are We Watching, where we go through my entire list, I'm going to post that list, which may seem counterproductive, but no, here's the deal. I post the list on the Patreon. You leave your comments about things that you have seen and your opinions and such, and I that will be a part of it, of each thing. If people talk about these things, I will include it in that episode. And now, if you're saying, damn, that sounds like fun, but I'm just not a subscriber to the Patreon, well, sometimes you got to suck it up and tough it out and do the best you can. And the best you can do is give me $5 every month for like the rest of your life.
Please and thank you.
Anyway, you can find me at Ice909 on straight up Instagram and YouTube. That's a natural B in that one. that's Ice909, ICENINE, the number 0 and the number 9. Also, of course, Tuck Mugs is still a thing and will forever be a thing. It's Tuck_Mugs. Now, I did say that my social media manager was going to have my new mug up that I sent to him about a week ago. I said it would be up by the time the last episode dropped, but I keep checking, and he
made a liar of you.
Gotten up there yet, but that's fine. You know, as a social media manager, I'm sure I'm not his only client. He's got a lot of people, a lot of posts for a lot of people who have a lot more followers than I do. So I get that. I get it. Sometimes you're low man on totem pole, but it's fine. It's not a big deal. And also, I would like to, Kat, if you're interested, I don't know if you're aware of Tuck Mugs, but it is my little corner of the internet where I show off my mug and glassware collection. Because I'm way into mugs, and I'm way into pint glasses, and I'm way into shot glasses, and I'm way into all kinds of glasses. If I can drink out of it or eat soup out of it, you're into it. So what I'm saying is we do guest mugs. Like, actually, a good portion of the posts I do are guest mugs. And a lot of times I like to ask people that have been on the show to be a guest mug. So if you are willing, and if you have a really rad mug that you want to show off, I would like to invite you to do that. And we can discuss it afterwards if you're interested.
I would be totally interested. I already have like ideas of what I would show. Like, nice. That is such a cool idea. Yeah, I'm into it. Count me in.
Fantastic. You hear that? We're getting a new guest mug, you guys. As soon as my social media manager, posts the last one I sent him 2 weeks ago.
Whose name is also Steven? Wow, you know a lot of Stevens. That's wild.
No, you guys are just so much alike.
Oh,
I
is
get
that
you
it?
Confused. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, dude. Yeah.
Right on.
So that's where you can find me on stuff. That's a place where stuff is. And hey, how about that new theme song, Steven? Wow. Yeah. It's like the old one, but like better.
It's a bop. It's straight up bop.
It is the old one. It's the old one, but I made it different.
Right. It's the same, but different.
I figured it needed a remix, remake, remaster for the 200th episode.
And it got
Yeah,
it.
so
You did that
So
all on your
hopefully-
own too. Like, we did not ask you to do that. You're just like, I guess I got to do this. And we're like, do you? And you're like, yep.
Well, yeah, well, because you remember, like, in January, I was like, we should redo the theme song. Like, it needs to be the same, but we need to redo it. And I remember I was going to pay Jimmy to do it. But then,
Yep.
like, it started taking him a lot longer than he thought it was going to put this record together, which is going to come out probably in January, which it's a summer record, so I don't know how that's going to work. But he's been spending a lot of time on that, so he hasn't had time. And then, like, 2 weeks ago, I think Brett brought it up in the group chat, and I was like, oh shit, can I do that in 2 weeks? I think I can do that in 2 weeks. So I did it in a night. Yeah. And it was really
Because self punishment is kind of your thing.
Also, it's really easy because I had already written that song and I had a complete idea of exactly what I wanted to do in my head, so I just had to execute it. Like, it was the quickest and easiest I've ever recorded anything, because part of my writing process is recording. Like, I'll come up with an idea and I'll start recording, and the idea evolves while I'm recording. I'm writing it while I'm recording it in layers and layers and layers. But with this, I had a clear idea. I knew exactly what I wanted to do, so it took like 6 hours.
Hell
In and
yeah.
out, done. Yeah,
Hell yeah.
it was fun. Good times.
I think that's all we got. Is that all we got? I think that's all we got.
Yeah, that's all we got. Yeah.
All
I
right.
think
Well, in
that's
that case, thank you all for joining us. This has been the episode on the Hellboys. For all of us here at Disenfranchised, me, your host, Stephen Foxworthy, my co-host, Tucker, the absent Brett Wright, and our very special guest, the amazing Cat Scully. Until next time, keep on keeping them on in hell, boy. I didn't know how to end that.
That's all right.
That's
a
all
great
I got.
ending.
If you say so. All right.